All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
On Valentine's Day 2009, Tiana Angelique Notice, a 25-year-old woman from Plainville, Connecticut, was tragically stabbed to death outside of her own apartment. For Tiana's family, this day marked the devastating end of a prolonged nightmare of stalking and fear. Just 5 weeks and 2 days before her murder, Tiana had been granted a restraining order against her ex-boyfriend, James Carter II. From the moment she filed for the order to the day of her death, Tiana visited multiple different police departments 33 times, desperately seeking help that she never got. Carter's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic, and he had violated the restraining order multiple times. Yet despite Tiana's repeated pleas and her insistence that she was in imminent danger, law enforcement continued to tell her that there was nothing they could do. On the final full day of her life, Tiana reportedly confronted an officer, asking in frustration, "What is it going to take before you guys do something? When I'm dead?" And tragically, it seems that is exactly what it took, because the very next day, Tiana would be murdered by James Carter II. So how could this happen? How was Tiana so egregiously failed by those entrusted to protect her? And most importantly, what can be done to ensure that no one else suffers the same fate?
Your planet is now marked for death.
Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps is now streaming on Disney+.
We will protect you.
As a family.
Light him up, Johnny!
Marvel's first family is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
That is fantastic.
And critics say it's one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Oh!
Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
What time is it, Ben? It's clobber time!
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
The Lincoln Wishlist sales event is happening now. Here's what's on everyone's wish list. Enjoying holiday jingles with brilliant 3D audio that surrounds you? Check. Watching snow flurries through the panoramic Vista roof? Check. Packing up presents with the spacious Lincoln Splitgate? Check. Everything you want. All standard on the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV. Visit your local Lincoln retailer or learn more at Lincoln.com for exceptional offers on 2025 Lincoln vehicles today.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana makes car selling fast and easy from start to finish. Enter your license plate or VIN and get a real offer in seconds, down to the penny. If you accept, Carvana will come pick up your car from your driveway. Or you can drop it off at one of our car vending machines. Either way, you get paid instantly. It's fast, transparent, and 100% online. Car selling that saves your time. That's Carvana.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Kelsey, and I am here with my sister-in-law, Katie.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
She is back by popular demand.
Oh.
Everyone has been in the comments like, we want Katie to come back. So
It's very sweet. I'm very excited to be here.
yes, we're excited to have you. Thank you for doing this again with me. But yeah, so you guys probably heard me talk about this last week. I'm not 100% sure how I ran it last week because I have not recorded last week's episode yet, but I'm finally getting ahead on things. I know, unlike me. And so I have a plan for December. So I'm just going to give you a little summary. I know I probably talked about it in depth last week, but for December, I am running a fundraising campaign,
Yes.
I guess I would say. And I am raising money for the Sierra Vince Foundation. And Sierra Vince, you probably heard her story last week. Sierra Vince, her life was cut short at just 22 years old when she was murdered by her boyfriend. And so her mother has started this foundation in attempt to raise awareness about domestic violence issues and to teach young people about what a healthy relationship should look like. And so that's what the foundation aims to do. They do this through community events. They also raise money for a scholarship fund for Midview High School students, and they have to write an essay about what they think a healthy relationship looks like.
I love that.
And the goal is to get young people thinking about this because it's something that I don't think a lot of young people are thinking about.
Agreed.
So they're doing great work, and we are going to raise money for them in a few different ways. Number one, I will be donating 50% of all of my ad revenue from the month of December and 50% of any creator fund money I make on TikTok during the month of December. So from December 1st to December 31st. And then we are also going to donate 100% of profits from any merch sales. So if you buy any merch on our website, 100% of the profit will go to the Sierra Vince Foundation. And there was and I'm also going to have a link in the show notes where you can make a direct donation. Now, I did set up a separate GoFundMe for this just because I wanted to see an overall total of how much money, we've raised as a Trial by Podcast. Obviously, 100% of the money that you guys are donating to that link is going to go to the Sierra Vince Foundation. I get paid out from Spotify and TikTok usually between the 15th and the 20th of the following month. So the full donation will be made late January. It's a couple weeks delayed, but we are raising all of the money during December. Because of that, we are focusing on all domestic violence stories in December. I think that this is one of the most impactful ways that we can help listeners, because I think this type of relationship, these types of issues are all too common to multiple different extents. So I've tried to pick an array of cases that I think each have a little bit of a different lesson in them, because not every abusive relationship looks the same.
Yes.
It's not
or
always
screams abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not always a black eye. It's not always physical abuse. And just because there's not physical abuse doesn't mean you're not in danger. So that's what we're trying to do for the month of December. If you don't have money to donate to that link or to buy merch or whatever, don't worry about it. One of the ways that you can help is just by letting the ads play through. We don't get paid for ads if they're skipped. So if you let the ads play through, or just one or two extra, more than you would normally do, that definitely will help us raise more money for the foundation. And it's one of those things. I skip ads when I listen to podcasts. I don't expect you guys to listen to every single one, but if you let an extra one or two play all the way through, that's just one way that you can help. Or sharing TikTok videos that we make. And I'm going to do my best to try and share more domestic violence stories on TikTok. Obviously, it's shorter form, so hoping to do more than what I do on the podcast there as well. But yeah, so that's what we're doing for the month of December, and I think it's going to be good.
Amazing.
I hope that this is going to have a good impact. So
it definitely will. It will, because the foundations that you talked about sound like they make a really big and good impact. So
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too. And I think one of the goals of the Sierra Vince Foundation is simply to educate young women on the warning signs of abuse and the warning signs that you are in mortal danger. And I think that's one of the best ways that we can do that is by sharing stories and sharing what lessons we learned. And the reason that I picked today's case about Tiana is because I think this is an egregious example of someone being absolutely and completely failed by the system that is supposed to protect them, and someone who did everything right, everything you're taught that you're supposed to do. And now there is change that comes out of this, which is good. But, I think it's an important point to note that getting out of an abusive relationship is not a one-person job. Oof. This is it takes a village type of thing. It takes family and friends to support you and protect you. And it takes authorities getting involved at times. One of the things I want to do this month, and I'm hoping to have it done by the end of December so I can release the episode this month, but it just on the way things are going, it might be January. But either way, I am going to try and get some sort of expert in domestic violence issues on the podcast, because I'm not an expert. And I want, this story prompts a lot of questions for me about what should be done differently? What should we do if we think one of our friends might be in a dangerous relationship? What should we do if we think maybe someone we know is the abuser? How can we address those things, and how can we do that safely? How can we safely leave an abusive relationship? Those sorts of questions that I am not qualified to answer. So if you guys have any questions that you can think of, leave them in the comments. Email me atrialbypodcast@gmail.com or send me a DM on Instagram @atrialbypodcast, because I'd love to compile questions that you guys might have. So now that I've rambled for 10 minutes, we are going to get into the story. So first, I want to start by talking about who Tiana was. So Tiana Angelique Notice was an accomplished and intelligent young woman. She was born in 1983, and by all accounts, she was brilliant and driven. She was ambitious, and in fact, she was so advanced in school that she managed to complete her first year of college while she was still finishing high school. Which I feel like you can't just be smart to do that. You also have to be so hardworking and care about your education. Like, there are smart people who did not do that. There are people who are hardworking who weren't capable of doing that. But she had both sides of the coin. Now, Tiana went on to earn her bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Hartford and was in the process of pursuing a master's degree in communications there. She was known for her articulate, outgoing personality and her bright smile. Her mother, Kathy Lewis, later described Tiana as, quote, a fine, beautiful, educated, intelligent, and articulate young lady, end quote. And she was just someone who had a vibrant life, a vibrant future ahead of her. Now, by early 2008, Tiana was back in Connecticut working towards that master's degree. And at the time, she also held a temporary job at a local university, which was Post University. And that's how she made her money to support herself, put herself through school. She had a loving family, including her mother, Kathy, who I mentioned, and then also her father, Alvin Notice, and her sister, Natasha. And on top of her family, she had a close-knit group of friends that she spent a lot of time with. It was kind of like a chosen family sort of situation. Tiana was, like I said, she's independent. She's hardworking. She's juggling work. She's a graduate student. And she was focused on her life, her ambitions, her goals, her career. But that year, she would end up meeting someone who would tragically alter the course of her life. So in 2008, Tiana reportedly met 27-year-old James Carter II through an online dating site. At first glance, James seemed like he was a catch. He presented himself as a successful young man. He owned a home in Bloomfield, Connecticut, and he said that he was working as an insurance executive. And overall, he just presented himself well. Like, he seemed ambitious as well. He owned this house. He had a good job. Like, Tiana just seemed to be attracted to his stability and his confidence as well. The two began dating, and for a while, things seemed to go really well. James was doting on Tiana. He was, like, obsessed with her. He was thoughtful, attentive, caring, like, all of the things that women want.
Checking every box.
Checking every box of just, like, you know, his world is revolving around Tiana. And at the time, I can imagine it was overwhelming in the best way possible. But in hindsight, I think it's safe to say that James was love bombing Tiana. And this is one of the questions I want to ask an expert is like, what can you do to tell the difference between someone who's just genuinely super thoughtful and caring? Because I know that those people exist.
How do you know?
Someone who is just love bombing. Like, what can you do to figure out which one it is?
Especially when it's something like that, where it sounds like he was doing it from the beginning. It's not like after a fight, he's love bombing you and then it feels more obvious or it like raises some red flags.
Right. Like, is there anything that we can look out for in the beginning to identify that right away? Because I think they do this love bombing thing and it gets you hooked. And then it's like, then you see the other side of things. And at that point, you're like emotionally attached to this person. Now, Tiana's mother never got to meet James in person during those early months of their relationship, but she later recalled having a bad feeling just from seeing photos of him. And she said, like, it was her mother's intuition.
Wow.
She just immediately was like, something's up.
Wow.
Yes. Still, Tiana gave the relationship a chance, even though her mother was like, I don't know about this guy. So he presented well. He had a profile that he was working, but it seems like people are insinuating he wasn't actually an executive at an insurance company.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just over exaggerated what his role in the company was or if like he just did not work that type of job at all. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Now, after about 6 months together, major red flags started to emerge. And I think that's like the honeymoon period is winding down. In late 2008, Tiana discovered that James had been keeping some serious secrets from her. It turned out that James had a history of violence that he had not disclosed to Tiana. This is what scares me about online dating. Like, you know, everyone in my age group, everyone dates online. People don't talk in person anymore or whatever. And it's like the one thing that's so scary about online dating is like you don't know anyone who knows this person that can vouch for this person. Yes. And you don't know if they are a straight up fucking psychopath.
Yep.
And it freaks me out. And Tiana was freaked out too. This was a shocking revelation for her. She knew James as this sweet, caring man that she was dating that was like so thoughtful and obsessed with her. And she just finds out that he's got this rap sheet for like assaulting this ex. And he never told her any of this. Like he didn't tell her about any of these relationship problems. And of course, she's like horrified and she feels betrayed. In addition, Tiana's father, Alvin, later speculated that James had also been cheating on her around this time. I don't know how her father knew that or why he thought that. But he had told Tiana this, that like, I heard something that James is cheating on you. So faced with James's lies about his past, the abuse of his ex-girlfriend, and the fact that he might be even cheating on her, Tiana's like, oh, I need to end this relationship. And so she does this. She ends the relationship. Then on November 17th, 2008, James Carter calls the police and he tells them that he needs assistance getting his belongings, his personal belongings from his ex-girlfriend's home. And so police go with him to the home. And according to these officers, Tiana was emotional at the time. And they also said like Tiana and James were mildly arguing is the way that they put it. But it didn't sound like there was anything extraordinary. There's no like screaming, nothing crazy happened. But he calls making it sound like, oh, this is going to be an incident if I go get my things from her house. Now, by December 2008, Tiana had fully broken up with him for good. And she later even wrote a poem titled Chapter Closed that captured her mindset at that time. In the poem, which her father would later read aloud in court, Tiana spoke of being released from James's, quote, temper, torture, threats, ego, jealousy, and insecurity, end quote.
Wow.
And she summed up the way that at least I picture an abuser to be.
Yeah.
The temper, torture, threats, ego, jealousy, and insecurity. This fragile ego, this, you know, what are you doing? Who are you with? Like, because they're so insecure in themselves and then lashing out at you. In the poem, she asserts her confidence in moving forward without him. She wrote, quote, an empty house in solitude is how he will spend his days. And I rest assured in knowing I'm beautiful, smart, and on my way. End quote.
Wow. Oh my God.
And it just shows you like Tiana recognized how toxic that relationship had become, how toxic and unhealthy James was, and how better off she would be without him in her life. And that she was just determined to leave this all behind her. But unfortunately, James Carter was not as willing to let go. After the breakup, James began to harass and stalk Tiana throughout December 2008 and January 2009. Tiana told a friend that James was, quote, persistently bothering her, end quote. And his behavior quickly escalated from pleas to reconcile into threats and unwanted attention. So it's like, please take me back, please take me back. And then it's like, oh, you're going to regret this.
Yeah.
Then on January 4th, Carter makes a visit to police. And he tells them that Tiana had threatened and assaulted him when he was at her house. Now, officers noted that the report was kind of odd, that Carter seemed rather calm for some, like compared to the normal reaction to that type of scenario. And he also had no visible injuries or evidence backing up his story. He told them that he still had some personal property at Tiana's home that he needed back, which is odd because the police just went with him like a few weeks prior to go get all of his stuff.
Yeah.
So police speak with Tiana, and she vehemently denies threatening or assaulting him. And police write in the report that Tiana seemed credible, and there was no probable cause to show that Tiana had committed any sort of crime. Because, spoiler alert, she didn't. And I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Agreed.
Still, police ordered Tiana to return Carter's belongings. And this reminds me of, like, have you ever seen Fleabag?
No.
Okay. In Fleabag, she kind of like just like doesn't care about her boyfriend. And Fleabag is like a British term for like she's kind of an asshole type of person. And so they break up and get back together all the time because she just like treats him like garbage. And every time they break up, he's so obsessed with her that he leaves this little toy dinosaur at her house so he has a reason to come back because it has like sentimental value to him. And so he always comes back for the dinosaur and then they get back together. And that's why I feel like why is he went and got the police to go get all of his stuff because he was so afraid he wasn't going to be able to get it back from her. And then he leaves more stuff there. It's like he's doing that on purpose, I feel like.
This episode is brought to you by eBay. Buying parts for your car? You'll know that will it work feeling. But on eBay, buying parts is different. eBay's free returns means if it doesn't fit or if it isn't what you expected, you just print a label, drop it off, and get your refund fast. No haggling, no stress, and at least 30 days to return any eligible item. Millions of parts, free returns. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Wherever Bud goes, his harmonica goes with him. It's a pocket full of soul. Now he's living with prostate cancer. He asked his doctor about Xtandi enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRES, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans, even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Everyone wants the Emirates NBA Cup.
And things are heating up.
30 teams started. But only 8 have advanced to the single elimination knockout rounds. To survive, they'll have to be hungry, relentless, ruthless.
Are you kidding me?
They all want the cup, but only one team can claim it. Who will capture the cup? Emirates NBA Cup knockout rounds begin December 9th on Prime.
100%. It's just another little manipulation tactic.
100%
in his arsenal.
I agree. So she returns his belongings, and she does this by dropping them off at the police station 2 days later, which is on January 6th. So now she's like giving the police all this stuff. They give it to him. You are hoping that this is done now. There's no toy dinosaur left at the house to come back for. But still, Carter wasn't satisfied. He continued to threaten Tiana via text. And alarmed by James's persistence and fearful of what he might do, Tiana decided that she needed to seek an official protection order. So on January 8th, 2 days after she returned his belongings, she goes to the New Britain Superior Court and she obtains an ex parte restraining order against James Carter II. And I believe what ex parte means is that it's a temporary order. Okay. I just know for sure that this order specifically that she got, it was a temporary order, I believe for 2 weeks. And it was granted by a judge without James present. So basically, Tiana makes this sworn statement that she feared for her safety. So they grant her the temporary order. And according to a later victim's advocate report, Tiana's application for the order explained that he had, quote, sent her threatening text messages, filed false police reports against her, and threatened her friends and family, end quote. So she's already saying this, what he's saying to the police about me is made up. And it is just another way for him to control her, yes, to control the narrative. And we're going to see throughout this, he is constantly trying to paint her as the instigator in their issues and as the aggressor. And unfortunately, he does a good job of this.
Of course he does.
So The court issues this order, and this order basically forbid James from contacting Tiana in any way, and even included a provision instructing James's mother, Audrey, and his brother, Brendan, not to contact Tiana either. And what I think is important to note about this is from what I found online, and I didn't read the exact protection order, and this is another thing I want to ask an expert about, is how are these normally worded? Because to me, it sounds like the order is that he cannot contact her, and it doesn't matter what he's saying.
Yes.
But
that's what I would
that's
assume.
kind of not how it's when she makes further complaints, because he contacts her again.
Uh-huh.
It seems like very important to police what he is saying. And that's why some of this is dismissed. And I don't understand it. It's like, doesn't the order just say you cannot contact her, period?
Yeah, right.
I don't know, though, for sure. So they give her this order. I believe it's like a 2-week period. And then they schedule a hearing for January 16th. And at that hearing, they are going to make a decision on whether or not the order will be extended past the temporary version.
And does he have to be there for this one?
I believe so, yes. Okay. Now, the day after she got this temporary order, so January 9th, a marshal served James with the restraining order paperwork, and this made it official. Like, now he's been notified. Anything after that time, he can see repercussions for these things. Tiana hoped that this legal measure would keep James away from her. But of course, it didn't. He continued to threaten her, harassing her, now via email, which is a direct violation of that restraining order. On January 13th, Tiana went back to the police department to report the violations, to report the harassment, and this report was taken by an Officer Barrett. According to his report, Tiana received 3 emails from Carter that she said were from Carter, but were from some fake email address. Okay. And these emails included the following quotes. So, number 1, "Trust me, baby girl, you are going to lose everything." Number 2, "As God is my witness, punishment is on the way, so be prepared."
Oh.
Number 3, "You will have nothing but bad luck. You hear me? Remember this email when karma bites you in the ass." Number 4, "But you will have to answer to God first for screwing James's family over because of all of the things that they did for you."
What?
And he's writing this as if it's not him, right? Like, you will have to answer to God.
You're dead.
Punishment is on the way, so be prepared.
You will lose everything.
So,
like, is that not, to me, that's like enough. That's enough.
That's a direct
all I
threat,
need to
right?
hear. That's all I need to hear. Yeah.
That's a direct threat. I think to any reasonable person, these messages are clearly threatening. They implied that James planned to make her suffer, that he was seeking vengeance of some sort. However, the police didn't really see it that way. I think they were, to put it very lightly, they were dismissive. Officer Barrett reportedly described the messages as non-threatening.
Wait, that actually says a lot about his character, and I fear for Mrs. Barrett.
Yes. Mrs. Barrett, are you good?
Are you good, girl? I know it's been a while, but...
Still, he did follow up on the incident. He spoke with Carter, who claimed that he did not send these emails, and that it must have been his girlfriend, Jessica Banderas, who had sent them. Now, if this was true, then technically the restraining order hadn't been violated because Jessica's not a part of this restraining order. And he's also kind of using the girlfriend as like, hey, why would I be bothering my ex? Like, I have a new girlfriend. I've moved on. So, of course, police need to talk to this girlfriend, but they can't find her anywhere. In fact, they can't even find anything to prove she exists. They can't find any record of a woman by that name living in that area at the time. Now, Carter's father was later interviewed about these emails, and although there was never an official conclusion on who sent them, it sounds like police had talked to them because they thought maybe it was him. I don't think that they drew any conclusions on that at this time, but they did talk to his father about the emails. And again, I don't think his father was part of the restraining order. It was just James, his mother, and his brother. So in the end, police basically conclude that there's not sufficient evidence to say that Carter had violated the restraining order. So nothing was done. There are so many opportunities for authorities to stop this from happening. This was number 1. And I hope that Officer Barrett learned an excruciating lesson from this and that he thinks about Tiana every single day of his life and that he is now making it his life's work to help victims of domestic violence
Yes.
and course correct. I hope. And I like to believe that most police officers are good people who are trying to do good things and help people. And so I hope that he learned a lesson here. Now, had police determined that Carter had in fact sent those emails, the consequences would have been immediate and serious. And that's what I'm saying here is like, this could have stopped what happened to Tiana, even though this is like a month before her murder. Uh-huh. So because the restraining order was already served and legally in effect, any contact, especially contact containing threats, would have constituted a criminal offense. Police would have probable cause to arrest Carter on the spot for violating the ex parte restraining order. So this is not like, oh, well, even if they determined it was him who sent them, it's just going to be like a note in the record. It would be, he would be arrested and charged for violating that restraining order. And in Connecticut, that is typically prosecuted as a Class D felony when the violation involves any threats or harassment, which to me, this is 100% a threat. 100% this is harassment.
Right.
And this likely would have resulted in James Carter being taken into custody, brought before a judge for arraignment, and potentially held on bond pending the full restraining order hearing. And I think even if he was released after this, at that point, further reports maybe would have been taken more seriously beyond that. Now, beyond the arrest itself, a confirmed violation would have provided the court with strong evidence that Tiana was in immediate danger, almost certainly prompting the judge to extend the restraining order, strengthening its conditions, or issuing additional protective measures. In short, if the police had recognized the emails as violations of this order, Carter would have faced swift criminal consequences, and Tiana might have received the urgent protection that she was desperately seeking. Sadly, this officer decided that James's cryptic threats weren't direct enough to be taken seriously, and it was a devastating blow to Tiana's hopes of getting any sort of help. This would become a pattern in the following weeks. Tiana reporting each violation and authorities downplaying or mishandling it. In fact, the Hartford Courant, I've never seen that word before in my life. Like Courant. It's like court, but with an AN in there.
Yeah, I think you said it right when you said Courant.
Courant. But the Hartford something later reported that Tiana's pleas to various police officials were often met with, quote, lethargy, dismissive attitudes, and even sarcasm, end quote. And I think that is they said that so perfectly. We are going to see every time she has failed in a different, creative, and unique way. And despite the apathetic response that she got from this first report, Tiana persisted in trying to get this order enforced. Otherwise, what the fuck is the point of them giving a restraining order? Because they're not enforcing it.
I know we'll get to this, I'm sure, but I have to tell you what is in my brain. So I can understand this first offense getting passed over because there's no proof. Like, okay, it's not his email address, whatever. They're not looking at IP addresses in 2008, I guess.
Oh, they do eventually.
Okay, so maybe we will get there. But my thought is like, do they not ask for a phone number for the girlfriend? Like, oh, you have a girlfriend? You think it's her? Like, what's her contact info? Where does she live? If you don't think it's him, why are you not at least trying a little bit harder?
Right. And they're like, well, you're not bringing evidence to prove that this was him who sent them. So then we can't do anything.
So they're like, okay.
And it's like, isn't that your job to look for evidence that this was him? And maybe I'm misunderstanding the police's role in this matter.
Maybe I am too, actually.
That's possible. To me, if a victim is coming to you saying that I am being threatened and I'm scared, my assumption that I'm making is that it is police's job to investigate this matter. And I don't understand why that wasn't done. And it is done later.
Okay.
Of course it is done later. But that just shows me that it was entirely possible to be done at this time.
Yes.
And they chose not to.
Yes.
And maybe that's standard. And maybe it's not Officer Barrett fucking this up horrifically. Maybe that's standard. My point is, if that is standard, it should not be.
Yes, exactly.
We should raise our standards. Now, James responds to this report that she tries to make of him violating the restraining order. And he does this in an unexpected way. Rather than simply stay away, he files his own retaliatory restraining order against Tiana. So on January 14th, 2009, James goes to Hartford court and he seeks his own ex parte order, claiming that Tiana was the one harassing him. He alleged that Tiana had assaulted him, saying she kicked one of his car's headlights and even punched him in the face during an argument. It was a stunning role reversal. The abuser was trying to paint himself as the victim. And when a hearing was held shortly afterward to make a final decision on Tiana's restraining order, like whether it would be extended or not, James's mother even testified on his behalf, like backing him up. And James repeated his claims about Tiana abusing him under oath in court, and he said that Tiana's the violent one. She's the one harassing me. Now, the judge's response to this was disappointing, to say the absolute fucking least. Instead of extending her restraining order and dismissing James's obvious retaliation, the court essentially treated the situation like a mutual conflict. Like they're both equally the problem. The judge questioned whether the pair might get back together. He asked Tiana, "Are you sure you guys aren't going to end up back together in 6 months?" That's not verbatim, but that was the question.
What the fuck? That shouldn't matter. Maybe he's jaded. He's seen too much of this shit.
And here's the thing, is you as a judge should know that these people should not get back together. Even if you don't know exactly what the issue is, who is the aggressor and whatever. Because men are victims of domestic violence as well in heterosexual relationships from women. And that is one of the stories that I'm going to tell later this month is a male survivor of domestic violence. So these things do happen, and I understand that they don't know who the aggressor is, but it's like something bad is happening here, and someone is telling you that they are scared and that they need help. And so why are you not looking into it? Now, that's not even the worst thing that the judge says to them this day, though, because we'll get to it in a second. He issues mutual restraining orders. So he does grant them both restraining orders. And I believe these are valid for 6 months. And so both Tiana and James are ordered to stay away from each other, not to contact each other. But the thing is, Tiana was the only one who provided any sort of evidence of harassment. James is saying she assaulted me, but he didn't have any injuries. I don't know if anything, like maybe his headlight was damaged. Tiana says that wasn't her. He says that Tiana's the one harassing me, but he doesn't have any messages, no screenshots, no emails, nothing to back up his claims. However, Tiana has evidence. She brought printed sheets of James's messages to her to show the court, of screenshots of text messages, of those emails. And she slams them on the desk, basically. And she tells the judge that, look, some of these were made after the initial order. He has already violated that order. Like, I am showing you evidence that he is the one harassing me. But still, the judge treats it like a mutual situation, which at this point, it's frustrating, but maybe it's just because I have so much information in hindsight.
Yes, very true.
But I can see why she felt like, fuck these people. And there's nothing to say that that's exactly her thoughts. Sorry to put words in her mouth, but you know what I mean. In addition to this, Carter admitted under oath that he had indeed sent her messages after the restraining order. But he claimed that Tiana had also been physical with him after the restraining order. So he is admitting in court under oath to violating the ex parte restraining order. Why is he not arrested on the spot?
Right there, right then and there.
Even if you feel like he is telling you a compelling story that's making you think this is a mutual thing, legally, he has violated a legal protection order. Why is he not arrested on the spot?
This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
At IKEA, your dreams can come true. Well, maybe not the ones where you're being chased by a monster. We're talking about kitchen dreams. And there are IKEA products and solutions for all of them. Whether it's a whole new kitchen, a statement glassware set, or just new cutlery. If you got big dreams or small dreams in any size of budget, IKEA can help you bring them to life. Visit ikea.us/dreamkitchen to learn more. Dream the possibilities.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Oluseyi are working to build the best sports viewing experience.
Some of my favorite moments throughout my life are watching sports with my dad. Now I work at Comcast as part of the team that created our AI highlights technology, which uses AI to detect the major plays in a sports game.
And now, millions of sports fans will never miss a moment. Visit ComcastCorporation.com/sports to learn more.
This is a real good story about Bronx and his dad, Ryan, real United Airlines customers.
We were returning home, and one of the flight attendants asked Bronx if he wanted to see the flight deck and meet Captain Andrew.
I got to sit in the driver's seat.
I grew up in an aviation family, and seeing Bronx kind of reminded me of myself when I was that age.
That's Andrew, a real United pilot.
These small interactions can shape a kid's future.
It felt like I was the captain.
Allowing my son to see the flight deck will stick with us forever.
That's how good leads the way.
That's where it's like, I don't fault the judge for questioning whether this is mutual that much. That's what I fault the judge for, is who gives, even if it is mutual, even if it is both of them going back and forth, he has violated that order.
Right.
Why are you not arresting him? And he's admitting to it under oath. It's not just her accusing him. I don't understand this. Now, when he was asked to provide proof of his claims, he said that he had none, and he told the court that he just simply needed to go because he had to get to work.
Okay, what?
Now, Tiana described incidents where Carter had struck her. She tells us under oath in court that he had been physically violent with her, and she reiterated that she just wanted him to stop contacting her and threatening her, and just explaining that she was scared.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, the judge took a flippant attitude towards her concerns. And like, she is telling you, this man was abusing me. And it's like, it seems like the judge was like, this is a lover's quarrel. Like, you guys got to kind of figure this out. Just stay away from each other. And at one point...
But he won't stay away from her. So what...
Exactly. And she has evidence of it. And he's admitting to it. And at one point, this is the worst thing that the judge says. He compares Tiana and James to Romeo and Juliet.
Bro, Romeo and Juliet?
He makes a comparison to Romeo and Juliet.
Well, he's never read the play. Surely. Right?
You know what happens at the end of Romeo and Juliet? They die.
Yeah, you're right. If you're comparing it to that, which one of them's going to end up dead? You should care more if it's Romeo and Juliet.
Exactly. Like, and first of all, it's not like Romeo and Juliet are supposed to be like the picture of love. And you're comparing this abusive relationship. She just told you that she's been physically abused by this man. And you're comparing him to fucking Romeo.
Romeo would never.
Romeo would never lay a hand on a woman.
No.
Okay? And also, they die at the end. So why are you not treating this with any concern?
Yes.
It doesn't seem like it. And again, it's like, I'm not there. I didn't experience it. Whatever, but like, this is the way it sounds to me. This is the impression I am getting from the story. That this judge is failing to recognize very clear signs of abuse, very clear red flags that Tiana was in danger. And do I think this judge just didn't give a fuck about Tiana and like didn't care if she lived or died? No. I don't know what this judge's problem was. I like to think that it was a lack of education and that if we better educate people in the legal system, that these things won't happen. But I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is with this judge in particular, but like, what happened here is fucked up. It's fucked up.
Period.
Now, the result left Tiana protected on paper by this restraining order. She gets this 6-month order. But now James has one too. And he would later use this to deflect the situation back onto Tiana. And this decision that was made by the judge, the mutual restraining orders, it was a decision that Tiana's family and victim advocates would heavily criticize later, and that we are currently heavily criticizing right now. Now, interestingly, Carter also, at this time, requested and was granted a restraining order against Tiana, not only for himself, he got one for himself, but a second one for his quote-unquote girlfriend, Jessica Banderas, who, again, the police couldn't even find any evidence that, like, she was real. However, she is, this Jessica Banderas that he's referring to, she is later tracked down, and she apparently does exist. However, She told police that she never had a relationship with James Carter, and she definitely was never his girlfriend.
Wow.
And this crazy ass motherfucker was trying to paint Tiana as the aggressor so badly that he's like, look, I've moved on with Jessica. Me and Jessica, we're so in love, and Tiana won't stop harassing us.
Yeah.
And I need to like protect my girlfriend so much. I'm going to get a restraining order on her behalf.
Crazy that you can do that, by the way. Like, you can just...
Yeah, what the fuck? Like, she doesn't have to go to court and do that.
Could I just go and... I don't get it. Because he has no proof, and she's not... We don't...
That's actually a really... I didn't think too much into it, and you are asking great questions right now. That makes
weird.
Zero sense. That she wouldn't have to be there.
And he doesn't have to have any proof.
Yeah, what the fuck? Anyway, the important thing here is that Tiana has done everything right. She documented the abuse, and she obtained a restraining order from the court. When that order was violated, she reported it and documented it. She printed out the evidence. She was using every tool available to try and protect herself. But they weren't letting her. They weren't following up the way that they should have been. And James Carter was not deterred by a simple piece of paper, especially after she already reports a violation and they do fucking nothing. Why would he be deterred at that point?
He got away with it already.
He's like, there's no consequences of violating it. In fact, almost immediately after being served with this new restraining order, that's not the temporary one, James starts violating it again.
Sure.
Now, what's important, one thing that I really want to note and stress throughout the story is that his behavior throughout all of this shows very clear planning and deliberate manipulation of the narrative of what is happening between them. He wasn't acting impulsively. He was intentionally using the police and using the court system to build a written, reported false narrative in which Tiana was the aggressor. This is premeditated. This is strategic. This is planning ahead. He claimed that she was withholding his belongings from him and that she was threatening his supposedly real girlfriend that he didn't actually have. And he claimed that he had no reason to bother Tiana because he had moved on. And now this is all in the police reports, in the documentation.
He's laying those breadcrumbs for future.
He manipulated the police and the court system into crafting a written narrative of painting a picture for him of Tiana as this clingy, irrational ex, and like who is inventing stories of abuse to punish him, to get back at him while he's already moved on. And disturbingly, this worked, at least enough to plant doubt in the minds of officers and to get them to report things this way, to get them to grant him these restraining orders, even if they didn't fully buy his story. And we often hear about abusers that I feel like they're portrayed as these thoughtless brutes who just lash out like they have this temper they can't control.
Yeah.
But that's not always what it looks like. In this case, he is in control of this situation.
This is chess to him.
He is playing chess. This is calculated. It is strategic. It is meticulous in the way that he is seeking to undermine Tiana and protect himself while painting her as the aggressor. And it's chilling and it's scary. Police can't just take these things at face value. Like reports of domestic violence and reports of harassment, stalking, they need to be investigated as serious crimes because they lead to people dying.
Right.
And they should be investigated with that foresight of like, people die from this.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's what happened here. Because there's evidence that if they investigate and find the evidence that we're going to talk all about, they will figure out that he is full of shit and that Tiana was abused and that she is the victim and that she is in danger. But they're not investigating. So through late January and early February 2009, James Carter's harassment of Tiana escalated steadily. He bombarded her with phone calls, text messages, emails, and other unwanted communications, all in clear violation of the restraining order.
Again.
And Tiana dutifully kept records of these incidents and frequently reached out to the police for help. On January 31st, Carter made another visit to the Bloomfield Police Department, and this is the city in which he lives.
Okay.
So she's keeping this record. She's handing this stuff over to police. But I believe he's sending all of these things, like he's using other people's phones and whatever. So it's like it's not black and white that it's him doing these things. So he goes to the Bloomfield Police Department, and this time he claims that Tiana had sent him something in the mail. Like, oh, she couldn't get a hold of him via text or email, so she's going to send it snail mail. And he had it actually as evidence. Now, this time he has evidence that she was the one violating the protection order. He hands this piece of mail over to the police, and they were surprised to discover that it was a printed photo of Tiana with a written note indicating who she, the person in the photo, was, and telling Carter to call her. And police, they found this odd. They were like, why would Tiana need to literally send a photo of herself and explain who was in the photo to a man who she was in a relationship with? Like, she knew that he would know who was in the photo. He's fucking seen her before.
Right.
So officers are like thinking this is kind of horseshit. But still, they follow up on this complaint and they ask Tiana about it. And she tells them that she absolutely did not send this to him. She's never sent him anything in the mail. And she stresses to them, he is the one harassing me. This is part of the harassment. This bullshit that he's making up is part of the harassment. This is why he has no evidence. He's trying to invent evidence, and he can't send text messages from my phone, but he can make fake mail. So unsure still of who to believe, officers send the letter to a lab for fingerprinting. Okay. So it's like they're investigating his claims.
I was just thinking that. This is maybe a different police station. She goes to one in a different city?
Police station. And that's one of the things, and actually this is kind of like the next thing I was going to talk about is like there are multiple different police departments involved in the story. So there's the Bloomfield Police Department where he lives. There's Plainville Police Department where she lives. And then there's another police department, the Waterbury Police, which I don't even remember exactly why they get involved, but we will get to them. But the thing is like it's all about jurisdiction. So if something happens to James, like he gets a letter to his house in Bloomfield, he has to report it to the Bloomfield police because it happened in Bloomfield. But if Tiana gets something, she lives in Plainville, so it has to be reported in Plainville. I think Waterbury is probably where she works because something happens to her at work. But so if something happens to her at work, she has to report it to a different police department. And it doesn't seem like they're actively like sharing and putting all of these puzzle pieces together because it's not being treated as like a full investigation into what's happening here. And so this causes confusion. So maybe the Bloomfield police are just more proactive about these sorts of things than the Plainville police are. And I will note, like, I don't know exactly when they look into those emails because, like I said, they eventually do track down the IP address of where those emails were sent from. I don't know exactly when that happens, so maybe they're working on it. I don't know how long those sorts of things take, but it did not seem to me, from what I read, that they did that immediately, like at the time that she reported it, in the same way that they're doing this with this letter, sending it off for fingerprinting.
Yes.
So on February 5th, a Bloomfield police officer who was following up on a complaint made by Carter called the Plainville police to get information on Tiana's reports against Carter. And this is the first time when officers begin connecting these separate reports and complaints. They also contacted the Glastonbury police, where Tiana's former employer had filed a complaint against Tiana for sending them a threatening letter in the mail. At the time, this seemed to back up Carter's claims that Tiana was the instigator. She was the type of person that would seek vengeance against someone who she felt did her wrong, like maybe this former employer. However, this letter was, of course, later determined to have been sent by Carter himself to Tiana's former employer, a harassing, threatening letter. He's impersonating Tiana, like threatening her former employer, making it look like it was sent from her, hoping that this person would report it to the police, which they did. And now it's not just him accusing Tiana of being this way.
Look, she does it to other people.
Yes.
Even though you went to jail for abusing your ex.
Exactly.
So...
Exactly. And that's the other thing about the way they're not following up on this. Like, he was already, like, he has a history of domestic violence.
He has shown you his colors, his true colors, and you're not believing her, and she's bringing evidence?
I didn't even think of that part of it. So that's what I'm saying is, like, he is calculated. Like, it's not, I've never heard anything like this story before, but I know that this is not that unique.
Right.
I think sometimes think of abusers as people who are just, like, emotionally unwell and they can't control their behavior. That is, I'm sure maybe that's sometimes the case, which takes no blame off their backs.
Correct.
But that is not the case here. He's playing chess. He's 2 moves ahead. And not only was he trying to point the finger at Tiana as the instigator in their disputes, but he's trying to paint her as the type of person who retaliates against anyone when she doesn't get what she wants. And he's trying to paint this as, oh, she wants me, but now I'm with Jessica, so she doesn't get me, and that's why she's retaliating. And all the while that he's doing all of this meticulous planning, he's still harassing Tiana. And it's like, where is he finding the time? So on the night of February 6th, 2009, Tiana parks her car in the lot behind her Plainville apartment as usual. By the next morning, February 7th, she discovered that all 4 tires on her car had been slashed.
How do I do it all during the holidays? 4 words. Shipped, same day, delivery. With Shipped, I can order groceries from Albertsons, decor from Michael's, even gifts for my furry friend from PetSmart. Plus, my personal shopper brings everything I need that same day. That makes it a breeze to decorate, get my shopping done, and make time for all the holiday parties. Do it all this holiday season with Shipped. Download the app or visit Shipped.com. That's SHIPT.com.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Retirement isn't just about closing out your career. It's mornings that begin with a sunrise instead of an alarm, and the freedom to live the life you've always dreamed of. With a New York Life financial professional, you'll have the guidance to make it real, so your years of hard work become the life you've always imagined. Your life, New York Life, more powerful together. Start today at NYL.com.
It was an act of vandalism, clearly meant to scare her and also inconvenience her as she couldn't drive. And one thing that I think is scary about this is also controlling in the way of, like, it's not just inconvenient that she can't drive. I don't know, does her family live super close? Do her friends live super close? Are they helpful? Are they all busy? It's
isolating.
It's isolating her. Yeah. It is keeping her somewhere that he knows she could be.
Yeah.
Now, she does go elsewhere and she does end up staying with someone else. But was it just to ruin her day? Was that his goal? Or was his goal to trap her there? Anyway, Tiana, obviously, she knows that this was James who did it. Who else would do such a thing? And she reports the incident to Plainville police on February 7th. Once again, the response is frustrating. The police told her that there was basically nothing they could do because there was no way that they could prove who slashed the tires. And it's at the very least, you could talk to him. But without an eyewitness or video footage, they said they couldn't take action, even though they agreed James was the obvious suspect, given the ongoing pattern of abuse and what was going on between them. So I'm not asking the police to just fucking arrest this guy for slashing tires without evidence. But it's she had evidence before, and it seemed to not matter. So, of course, Tiana's frustrated. She feels unsupported. She's scared. And she's like, when is it going to end? So after the slashing of the tires, Tiana was terrified that James might show up at her home in person and attack her. And she conveyed these fears to her parents. Her father, Alvin Notice, took her fear very seriously, and he was determined to protect his daughter. So he came over to her apartment and helped her install a security camera outside of her apartment building. He's like, we're not fucking around anymore.
Right.
If he comes back to this apartment, we're going to get it on video. So this is around February 7th or 8th. He sets up this wireless surveillance camera overlooking the parking area behind her building. And particularly, he made sure her car was in view. The idea was to catch James on video if he tried to approach her residence again. And Alvin also spent time that night after he sets up the cameras coaching Tiana on how to respond if she is attacked.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine having to teach your daughter that because of a very real threat? Not just like, hey, here's how you defend yourself just in case. It's like, hey, if he comes to attack you, you need to be ready.
And it breaks my heart for these parents who did everything they fucking could to protect their daughter. But they can only do so much.
Short of like physically attacking him or restraining him somehow or like killing him.
And it's like, this is going on for months. People have to go to work. People have jobs. And they can't just like sit and stand guard as much as they may want to.
Right.
Because you don't know how long this is going to go on. When is it going to end? And that night, they literally role-played possible attack scenarios. Alvin pretended to be an intruder so that Tiana could practice how to escape or try and defend herself. And it's just heartbreaking that that was necessary, but it was. Alvin knew that the danger was real. Tiana was grateful for her dad's help. With the camera installed and some self-defense strategies in mind, she felt a little bit safer. But it's also like, no matter how skilled you are in the martial arts or strong you are, I think a woman against a grown man is always going to be very slim chances.
Yeah.
And you can't just teach someone to fight off a grown man in a week. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's good that he did this with her.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, this is not enough. Like, the police need to be enforcing this. And both of her parents were just on edge. And they hoped that the next time James showed up, they'd have evidence and they would finally get police to arrest him. And their hopes were tested almost immediately because just one day later, on February 8th, Tiana returned home in the evening and she found something disturbing. A letter pinned to the front door of her apartment. The note was handwritten, and according to its content, it was clearly from James. In it, James begged for her forgiveness. He insisted to Tiana that he never cheated on her, and he swore, quote, "If I'm lying, may God take my life," end quote. And guys, this is another sign of emotional abuse, is if someone is threatening, and this isn't exactly like a suicide threat the way he worded it.
Yeah, it's indirect.
But if you are trying to end a relationship and someone is threatening suicide, or like let's say you're debating leaving them and they start threatening to end their own lives over it, that is a clear sign.
Textbook.
That something is horrible here. They are manipulating you. And now I never want anyone to not take suicide threats seriously. If someone says that to you, please tell someone and get help, whether it's authorities, whether it's their parent or one of their friends.
Yes.
But you cannot stay in a relationship with somebody or even continue speaking to them, especially if they've been abusive emotionally or physically or financially with you. But even if they hadn't, you cannot continue a relationship with someone because they are threatening to end their own lives. That is emotional abuse in and of itself. And I understand that maybe someone could, that is not always the case. There are probably times when someone is already having suicidal thoughts and then they're broken up with. So it's not a purposeful manipulation, but I think oftentimes it is emotional manipulation. Now, he also wrote in this letter, quote, "Forgive me for everything else I have done," end quote.
Huh.
What else is that? Slashing her tires and threatening her and sending all those emails.
Lying about her to the police.
Yeah. Sending a fake letter from her to her former employer, making her look vindictive. But the letter, it was a odd tone. It was part desperate apology, part self-pity, part like begging for her. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you can tell that this is not normal behavior from a grown man. Like it's erratic. It's erratic behavior. And some people like wonder if this note was left as a trap, like hoping that Tiana would respond or she would let him insert herself. Like maybe she'll go to the police with it and then he gets to do something. And,
sure.
And he just seems like he's trying to just keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Now, Tiana's frightened by this letter. The apologetic language, it's almost scaring her more because he's coming to her home. He's painting himself not only as a victim in the eyes of like the police, but also like in his own eyes. He's seeing himself as a victim. Like, I never cheated on you. Like, may God take my life. Forgive me. Forgive me. Like, why won't you forgive me?
Yeah.
And it's something that it's not logical thinking. And this is scary. This is dangerous. Now, she saves the evidence, or she saves the note as evidence, and she and her father also check the security footage, hoping that it caught James in the act of delivering this letter. But frustratingly, the camera's recording had stopped because the tape ran out shortly before the time the letter was probably left.
That can't be real. That sucks.
Doesn't that fucking suck?
Like, if this was a movie, he did that somehow.
Yes, I don't think he actually did, but yes. And this is one of the things, I think any young woman who lives alone, or even like if you have a roommate but you're both women, I think you should have security cameras. You can get cheap ones nowadays, and you should have it like wireless linked up to an online portal that, I don't know, it's keeping it for at least a week of footage.
Right.
At least a week. Because I think back then it was more normal to have it like on tape.
Yes.
But like, you guys want security cameras. I think this is something that can really help save people. And even if it doesn't, it can help catch the people that do whatever to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, even without video footage, Tiana decides she still needs to report this to police. She is reporting everything to police just as she should be. This time, perhaps realizing the pattern of these escalating incidents, the Plainville officers took a small step for her. They attempted to get James to talk to them, to cooperate. And so they call James and they ask him to come into the station to provide a handwriting sample so they could compare it to the letter. Because if they can prove that this was him, this is a violation. And this is like really the first time that it seemed like law enforcement was investigating what was happening here and actually taking it seriously. And I don't understand why this wasn't done before. Because right around the same time, again, I don't know if it was the same day, I don't know if it was a week later or a week before, but around the same time, they submit an application for a warrant to obtain the IP address from all of those threatening emails.
Interesting.
Why didn't they do that in the fucking first place?
Right. If that was an opportunity and you couldn't prove who did it, but you knew you could check the IP address, why? Why was that not the first thing?
I genuinely do not understand that. And again, I don't know how all of these things work, all of the details. Maybe there's something I'm missing. So if there is, let me know nicely in the comments. But like, it's not making any sense to me. This should have been done January 13th when she reported the emails that I read those quotes from. And Tiana is feeling the same way. She's voicing her frustration to the officers, saying that Carter had repeatedly violated the restraining orders, yet time and time again, she is reporting these violations and nothing is being done. But at least this time, it seemed like the officers were finally going to investigate. At the same time, however, they're still looking at Tiana too. While she's there, they request her fingerprints and 2 handwriting samples from her as well, because they're trying to compare it to the note, like the picture with the note that he turned in. And so she gives it to them willingly because she didn't fucking send that thing. So when Alvin heard that Plainville police had finally called James in for questioning and for these handwriting samples, he had this surge of hope, thinking like, thank God. He even told Tiana to be careful and lay low until the police could actually arrest James, because now they are investigating him. Now it seems like they seem to be taking this seriously. And this is dangerous for Tiana, because if he thinks, oh, this is all going to come to an end soon, and he's already escalating, it's like, what is he going to do?
Right.
So Alvin tells his daughter, don't go anywhere near your apartment. Don't go anywhere near James or places he might be. Stay with friends or family in a safe place. She did go stay with someone. I can't find who it was.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a friend. I don't know if it was a family member. Don't know who it was. But she did heed his advice, and she did go stay with someone. And she was afraid to be alone. She did not want to be at her apartment. So she stayed for days elsewhere and just avoided her house. And it seemed like it was just going to be a matter of time before James would be caught violating the restraining order. And she just needed to wait it out, and he would be charged with stalking or harassment or something. And she's just doing everything right. Ugh. Now, the days leading up to Valentine's Day 2009 were filled with anxiety for Tiana. Although Plainville police had made some moves towards building a case, they were looking into the email evidence, the fake letter, they're including the slashed tires in the report, and now this handwritten apology note. James is still free, and he's still harassing her. Tiana remained close in contact with law enforcement, and she's just reporting all of these violations as it happened. And again, from the first report she makes to the day she dies, she talks to police 33 times. That's according to her mother. 33 times. This is only like less than a 6-week period.
It's so sad for her.
It sounds like this is like
sad.
over years, but we've talked about a few weeks.
Right.
This is what's happening. It seems like it's every day. Now, on February 13th, 2009, the day before her murder, this brought one of the most blatant restraining order violations yet. That Friday, Tiana was at work at Post University in Waterbury, where she had a day job. Late that morning, while she was at her office, James began calling her work phone repeatedly. Despite everything, James seemed unfazed by the restraining order. He directly contacted her where he knew that she would be, and she couldn't really avoid this phone. The first time that he called that day, Tiana actually answered, because I believe it's like a receptionist answers the phone. He asked for Tiana, and then the receptionist transfers him.
Okay.
And so she answers, probably not realizing that it's him on the line. And James is just on the other end of the phone, pleading with her to drop the restraining order. I'm so sorry. And he's saying that this order is making his life difficult and that he couldn't get a job because of it. And he questioned why their relationship had ended the way it did, like why she left him. Now, Tiana's stunned and she's upset and she's scared, and she does stay on the line for a few minutes, it sounds like, but then she hangs up on him, telling him, "Don't call me again." Shortly after, James called her office phone line 2 more times. This time, as soon as Tiana recognized his voice on the phone, she hung up immediately and refused to speak to him. And then she goes and tells the receptionist, "Don't transfer this guy to me anymore." And this is a clear violation of the no contact order, and it happened at her workplace, and she's shaken. Now she's having to tell her colleagues what she's been going through. And I can't imagine going through all of this and trying to go to work every day and focus on your work.
No.
Now, Tiana promptly called Plainville police to report that James had called her. To her surprise, the authorities told her that because the phone calls occurred in Waterbury, her location at the time, she had to report the incident to the Waterbury Police Department instead. Even though the Plainville police were the ones that had this open investigation going. This added bureaucracy was frustrating. James's behavior was a continuous pattern, but Tiana just kept having to navigate multiple jurisdictions and let them transfer the information between departments when she could just tell them herself directly. And I understand that there is a reasoning behind this, and I'm not saying that the police did anything wrong. All I'm saying is I understand how this is incredibly frustrating for her.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Tiana follows these instructions, and she actually drives to the Waterbury Police Department on the afternoon of February 13th to file a complaint about James's restraining order violations via the phone calls. What happened at the Waterbury Police Station that day is egregious. I know I keep using that word. I just feel like the word egregious is the perfect word to describe this case. According to accounts from Tiana's family and friends, the Waterbury officers were slow to respond, to say the absolute least. An officer took down her report and then told Tiana to go back to her office and wait, saying that the police would come by later to take additional information if needed. So reluctantly, Tiana leaves the station and she returns to work. But she was not content to just sit and wait while they did nothing, because that was her experience up until this point.
Yeah.
She was far too worried that nothing was being done quickly. She felt like she was in imminent danger, and she needed them to respond urgently. So by 3 p.m. that day, when no officer had yet arrived at her workplace, Tiana went back to the Waterbury police station in person. She came prepared. She brings a copy of the restraining order in case they're not able to access it through their system, because again, I believe that's through Plainville. It's through different jurisdiction that she got that. She also brings in a written statement from her coworker who had witnessed James's phone calls to her earlier. So it's not just me saying this. I have a witness who heard this phone call. Tiana is essentially doing the police's work for them.
I was just thinking that.
She is providing evidence and documents on a silver platter, trying to get them to act. Multiple accounts describe that Tiana was extremely upset and she felt belittled by the Waterbury police. She eventually phones her mother, Kathy, in tears after these interactions. And basically, what happened was officers in Waterbury had initially been unable to find a record of her restraining order in their system.
Okay.
They thought that maybe Tiana didn't really have one, apparently.
Of course.
Tiana was baffled by this because she literally had the official court order printed out with her in hand and gave it to them. And they're insinuating that she didn't really have an order. One officer reportedly accused her of possibly having a fake restraining order.
What? Bringing what she brought?
Yes. She's made this all up to what? To what punish this guy? I don't know. Now, another officer or like supervisor or something was, in Tiana's words, downright sarcastic and dismissive of her. According to Kathy, Tiana told her over the phone, quote, "Mom, you wouldn't believe these people. They treated me like dirt. They didn't believe anything I told them. They thought I was lying, and one officer accused me of having a fake restraining order," end quote.
I feel so sad.
Tiana told her mother that she kind of lost her cool. She yelled at the officer who told her that there was no restraining order on file and accused her of faking it, which was Officer Leon, by the way. And she exclaimed to him, quote, "What is it going to take before you guys do something? When I'm dead?" End quote. Tiana would be dead the very next day. But it did take her being dead. Now, Kathy, after this call, she's fucking done with the police doing nothing to protect her daughter. So she calls up the police department, and she later tells True Crime News, quote, "I spoke with a sergeant that said, 'Oh, nothing's going to happen to your daughter,' he snarled at me. And I'm like, 'Look, I don't want my daughter to become a statistic. And I'm telling you now, if something happens to my daughter, you better move to another planet," end quote.
Wow.
Which gives me
I literally am about to
goosebumps.
cry, yeah.
That is fucking mama bear shit right there. And I hope he moved to another planet.
Me too.
I hope he got on one of fucking Bezos' space rides and he is in the abyss. Like, just call, like,
What a
why
motherfucker.
Why are they not just calling Plainville police that know about this?
Beep, boop, beep. It's 10 buttons on the phone. Hey, is this real? It is? Okay.
Yeah. Like,
how long does that take?
Software systems mess up sometimes. Like, there's human error. Maybe they didn't upload. I don't know how these systems work.
Maybe they spelled her name wrong. Maybe there's 100 things. She's showing you a document. It's so easy to verify.
I just can't
and then
imagine.
Just to tell the mom nothing's going to happen to your daughter, and then the next day she's dead. I genuinely, truly hope that that person, that sat with them for a while.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, for sure there are stories where there are bad police officers. There are bad people of authority. Like, there are bad people out there doing jobs that should be done by good people. I understand that that's real. But until I have solid evidence that, like, these people are, like, actual horrible people, I work with the assumption that these are good people. Maybe they're overworked. Maybe they're, overwhelmed. Maybe their mom died last weekend and they only had a week of PTO. I don't know their scenarios. Maybe they're not educated on what the outcome could be of this situation. But something is seriously wrong here. And I do think that these are probably good people who care about their jobs, because it's not like it's just one police department. It's just one group of people or one officer.
Yeah.
We're seeing this in all these different police departments. And to me, that shows you that there's something wrong with the system.
It's the bigger problem.
There's a bigger issue. It's not that these are evil, horrible people. No. I am sure that what happened to Tiana and the way that they mishandled her case, I am sure that it is one of the biggest regrets of their life.
Yeah.
I am sure that they have nightmares about it. I'm sure that they feel horrific. I hope that they learn from the situation. But I think you have to highlight how wrong they handled this case.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me, like, putting myself in someone else's shoes with way more information and whatever. But I feel like even if there's a lack of education, even if the system doesn't operate effectively, even if it's a systemic issue, I do feel like there are people out there, especially some women, who would have still handled these situations differently. Like,
Agreed.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at amazon.com/new Alexa.
This episode is brought to you by Blink. Doom scrolling during this ad break? Ditch the doom and get peace of mind with new Blink 2K Plus Smart Security. Check on home from your phone with 2K Clarity, noise cancellation, and 4 times zoom. Plus, setup is so simple, you can easily install while listening to your favorite podcast. True crime girlies, we got you. Get more, spend less with Blink 2K Plus Smart Security.
I can't imagine that Tiana's going in there cool, calm, and collected.
No.
I imagine that she seemed genuinely afraid for her life.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Anyway, it just seemed like they had this callous attitude. All of these police who were supposed to protect her. And this just left Tiana, her mom, her dad, everyone's frustrated and they're scared. Tiana just felt like she was like screaming into a void for help and no one's responding. And sadly, despite Tiana's best efforts on the 13th, there was really no immediate action taken. Waterbury police did eventually acknowledge her complaint. They gave her a case number and they realized that her restraining order was real. And they're like, okay, we're filing a report and whatever.
That's it.
That's what was done that day. So the officers just tell her that they would forward the report to detectives for follow-up. So like the detectives investigating this case, I believe, and they offered her a victim's advocate pamphlet and suggested that she contact a women's shelter if she felt unsafe. So they didn't do nothing, but they didn't do enough either.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is why I want to ask an expert, like what could have been done differently this day in particular?
Yeah.
Because they don't have the whole history of everything. This is the first time she's making a report to this specific police department. But it's like something is going wrong here in the system. And I don't know exactly what should have been done differently. Anyway, she leaves the police station that Friday night, distraught. She had done everything she could. She had spent literally her entire day trying to get law enforcement to arrest James for clearly violating her restraining order, and yet he was still out there, free, and likely enraged that she was involving police yet again when he's literally calling her, begging her to get rid of this restraining order because it's making it hard for him to get a job, which cry me a fucking river, James. Right. Whose fault is that? Now, that night, Tiana didn't feel safe going back to her apartment, so she stayed with whoever she's been staying with. And over the course of that night and the next morning, Tiana remained extremely cautious. She's in contact with her parents, who were also on high alert. Plainville police, for their part, were working in the background on some of Tiana's earlier reports from the 13th. Now, later that morning, Tiana checked her email and she found 2 new messages from James Carter, sent the previous day on February 13th, so the same day that he had been calling her office. And these emails came from his personal account. This was not hidden. One message read in part, quote, "God told me to write, so please don't tell the cops. I'm going through a life or death situation right now, and you are the only one I can talk to. You ever been so close to death or thought you were going to die? If I am lying, may the Lord strike me down and kill me tomorrow. My dad said he had a dream that our neighbors gave us 2 tombstones at our house," end quote. So you can see here, he is talking about death. He's talking about dying. He is talking about Tiana dying. Another message read, quote, "In dire straits situation, T, please help me," end quote, and quote, "Get rid of the restraining order," end quote. Now, after discovering these emails, Tiana contacts her mother, who told Tiana to print them and to bring them to the Plainville Police Department to report the violations. Because again, Plainville has the largest investigation into what's happening, and because these are being sent to her, and she lives in Plainville, it all makes sense. So at around 4:30 on February 14th, Tiana goes to the Plainville Police Department to speak with Officer Mark Conoy about the 2 emails that Carter had sent on February 13th. These messages were in direct violation of the restraining order. While on the phone with her friend, Robert Dennis, Tiana arrives at the police station and she met with Officer Conoy. Now, according to Dennis, who overheard parts of the conversation through the phone, the officer tells Tiana that the Plainville police were planning to arrest Carter for violating the restraining order. So they have applied for a warrant, and they just have to wait for that arrest warrant to be granted to officially make the arrest. Now, normally, this isn't done on a weekend, it sounds like. It sounds like this is going to have to wait until Monday, but I could be incorrect about that. According to the Plainville police report, at approximately 7:50 p.m. that night, after confirming that the phone number used to send the emails belonged to James Carter, this is when they feel like they have enough evidence. They have confirmed it. They have proved that these came from him. Officer Knoy calls that phone number and left a voicemail instructing Carter to contact him. At 7:59 p.m., Carter returns this call, and during this conversation, the officer informed him that police were intending to arrest him for violating the restraining order. Why are they giving him a fucking heads up?
Wow.
So they were working on doing something, these Plainville officers, and they were seeking to charge James with numerous restraining order violations and harassment incidents that had piled up since January. And this goes back to what I've been saying. Why have they piled up?
Right.
Why was an arrest not made sooner? I think that they had the evidence, they had the opportunity, and it could have been done.
Agreed.
And it wasn't, because they're using this as all of their evidence saying that he has violated this. And they've had all this. And this went very quickly, from less than 6 weeks. And that's the thing, is like, if someone is in mortal danger, I think often, I don't know this to be true, I think often it happens quickly like this.
Sure.
And I can see how the police, like, they think they have more time than they do.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't let these incidents pile up. You had proof of violations. But anyway, so on the 14th, that warrant was still pending approval, and it had not been signed by a judge yet as of Valentine's Day. By the time that Valentine's Day arrived, Tiana was terrified. For weeks, she had been living in fear of what Carter might do next. And she had a feeling that he might try something on this day in particular because of the emotional significance of Valentine's Day. Or just because things had been coming to a head with the police involvement and they were now, actually doing something.
Right.
But James now knows, as of 8 p.m. that evening, that he is going to be arrested, that the police are going to move forward with their case against him. He is going to be arrested, and this is all about to come to an end for him.
What better time to do it?
Now, in any case, Tiana realized she needed some personal items from her home. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was clothes, toiletries, whatever. But she just kind of thought she could slip in and out really quickly and just grab her stuff and pack an overnight bag and get out of there. Because she's been staying with someone for days. She was likely planning to get the stuff and then go back to wherever she was staying immediately. Unbeknownst to Tiana, James Carter was lying in wait. Enraged and desperate, he had apparently been stalking Tiana's apartment, just hanging out, waiting for her, anticipating that she might come back at some point. And that Valentine's Day evening, as darkness fell, the parking lot and pathways of Tiana's complex were quiet. James hid himself in the shadows near Tiana's door. The surveillance camera Alvin installed was pointed at the rear parking lot, and it didn't catch James approaching. Just after 9:30 p.m., Tiana arrives at her apartment. She walks towards her front door, and James suddenly emerges from the shadows and attacks her.
Ugh.
The assault was vicious and unrelenting. James was armed with a knife, and as Tiana reached her doorstep, he lunged at her and began stabbing her repeatedly. Tiana let out a scream, which was captured faintly on the surveillance camera's audio, and she screamed as she tried to get away. She fought with everything she had, likely thinking back to her father's coaching sessions on what to do if she were to be attacked. Of course, James overpowered her. He stabbed Tiana approximately 18 to 20 times, delivering blows to her chest, her stomach, her arms, and even her back as she turned, trying to flee.
Ugh.
2 of the knife wounds punctured her heart, which would prove to be fatal injuries. There was blood everywhere, and the attack was as brutal as it was sudden. Yet, Tiana did not give up. Despite sustaining grievous wounds, she managed to break free for a moment as the assault was coming to an end. She was mortally wounded. She was bleeding heavily, but her will to survive kicked in. She had her cell phone with her, and in a final act of incredible strength, Tiana dialed 911 while collapsing away from her attacker. When the emergency dispatcher answered, Tiana used her very last breaths to identify her killer. In a gasping, pain-filled voice, she cried, quote, "I'm bleeding to death. My ex-boyfriend just stabbed me," end quote. These words were recorded on the 911 call, forever documenting James Carter as the perpetrator. The call then went silent as Tiana, losing blood rapidly, dropped the phone. Neighbors in the apartment complex had heard the commotion and Tiana's screams, and a few brave residents rushed out to see what was happening. They found a horrifying scene. Tiana collapsed on the ground, bleeding profusely from multiple stab wounds. Oh my God, this is going to make me cry.
No, I'm literally crying.
Some neighbors tried to render aid, putting pressure on her wounds and speaking to her to keep her conscious until the paramedics arrive. Someone might have picked up her phone and spoken to the 911 dispatcher as well, relaying information about where they were. That was unclear to me. But James, meanwhile, had fled immediately after the stabbing. In the darkness and the chaos, none of the neighbors got a good look at him, but based on Tiana's own words, everyone already knew who was responsible. And it's like, she had asked for help so many times.
Like, she knew this was going to happen from the first emails when he said, essentially, like, I'm going to punish you.
Yeah. And he said, you're going to have to answer to God. What else does that mean? Like, besides you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
And like her poor parents, it's just heartbreaking because it could have been stopped.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, the fear leading up to this is like a fucking horror film.
Mm-hmm.
So police and EMTs arrived quickly at the apartment complex after the 911 call. They found Tiana lying near her front door in critical condition. EMTs worked frantically to stabilize her for transport to the hospital. She was fading in and out of consciousness at this point, having lost a tremendous amount of blood. It was shortly before midnight when Tiana's parents, Alvin and Kathy, got the call that every parent fears. Their daughter had been attacked and was gravely injured. Alvin and Kathy raced to the hospital, arriving around 11:45 p.m. When they got there, the news was grim. The look on the staff's faces said it all. Doctors had battled to save Tiana's life. In the emergency room, a trauma team transfused blood and even performed an open cardiac massage, which is literally pumping her heart with their hands. Like, they have cracked her chest open. They're pumping her heart by hand in a desperate attempt to get it to beat again. But the damage from the stab wounds was too extensive. One of the knife thrusts had likely caused catastrophic internal bleeding in her heart or her major blood vessels. And after exhausting every possible intervention, the surgeons had to tell Alvin and Kathy the unthinkable, that Tiana did not survive. Now, she was pronounced dead late that night on February 14th, on Valentine's Day 2009. And Kathy would later recall the moment the doctors told them, saying, "We did everything we could. She's gone." That's what the doctors told them. The shock and anguish of that moment is indescribable, and I think absolutely unimaginable to any of us who have not had to go through something like this. Alvin had to go in and identify his daughter's body, and he had to see the 18 to 20 stab wounds covering his daughter. And in that instant, he knew with absolute certainty who had done this, and he knew that this had happened because she had been failed by the very system that is built to protect us. And the very outcome that they had been desperately trying to prevent, that they had been begging for help to prevent, had come true. And sorry, I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning, but this is going to be a two-parter. I think I'm going to drop it as an extra bonus episode this week on Thursday. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. And then in the next episode, we'll talk about the investigation, the arrests, the trials, all of these things, and the broader context of, analyzing what went wrong here, what can we do differently, and there is some change to come out of this. Thank the fucking Lord.
Yeah.
But she had to die.
Right.
And that it's her exact question the day before. What is it going to take for you to take this seriously when I'm dead?
She knew. How did so many people not see it? And she knew.
And it's not like this guy had this perfect history and no record and everyone says he's a great guy. And it's like he had been convicted of assault, of physically abusing an ex. He had a record of this. And I understand that for us, there's so much information in hindsight that we have that police did not have at the time. But the point is, we have it because police obtained that information eventually. And they always had the ability to obtain that information, but they waited too long to look for it. They did not treat this with any urgency. And I have a couple friends, like there's people I know that are police officers, and they tell me like they deal with like domestic disputes like on a weekly basis. This is happening everywhere all the time, and it might be happening to someone you know and you don't know it.
Right. And if you're sitting in a room with 3 other women, at least one of you has gone through this.
And
some form of assault.
Here's the thing is like, there are people who are in abusive relationships for years, decades, and they are not murdered. But what people need to understand, and I think where maybe like these police weren't educated enough, I don't know. Leaving is the most dangerous time.
Yeah.
It's the most dangerous time. And I just feel like they just didn't treat this like she was in any danger.
No.
They didn't treat this like she was in any danger. And she died because of it. Brutally. She was brutally stabbed to death because of it. And I just think what happened here, it was preventable. To me, there were clear warning signs that she was in danger.
Yes.
I think she knew it. I think her family knew it. I think probably her friends knew it. And I think the way that this was handled is egregious, is embarrassing, is like, I just...
It's pathetic.
33 times she spoke with police. And again, in 6 weeks. Like, that is multiple times a week. She is asking for help. And even if they don't have the evidence, I feel as if there must be more they could have done to help her. Even if they had no evidence and it wasn't accessible, which it was. We will obviously see that.
Yeah.
Like the IP address for the emails, like all of these things. It was accessible. But even if they didn't have any of that, there should have been more that they would do to help her. And I don't know exactly what that is, though. Yeah. And that's why I want to talk to an expert in these things. I'm going to try and get some sort of victim advocate on here. I don't know who it's going to be yet or like exactly what their experience is. But like, I want to know like what, besides what I'm going to talk about next week, because they do learn from this. They do make changes. They learn from this. But I think I want to dissect it because I just have never heard anything like this before in my life.
Every turn being ignored or like having it be downplayed right to your face.
And just some of the sarcasm. And like, I think some of these officers probably were just in situations where their hands were tied, where they weren't educated. But we talked about some of the people in this system, the judge comparing it to Romeo and Juliet.
Are you off your rocker?
Egregious.
Like.
Despicable.
The fake restraining order, which fine, if you can't find it in your system, I get it. But like accusing her of having a fake, that does not sit well with me.
That I don't understand it. And like my heart breaks for her because, I mean, she was being emotionally tortured for the last 6 weeks of her life at least. And you know, she said there was abuse before that. So I think it went on much longer than that.
Yeah.
But
hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Imagine all of this. She's doing all of this. She's making multiple reports to police every week. She's going to court. She's doing all these things. In the meantime, she's also working and going to school to get her master's and trying to like live her life. And then she can't even stay at her own apartment. It's just, he was torturing her emotionally. And it's just a shame because this didn't have to happen, I guess. That's really the crux of it. It didn't have to go down this way.
Yeah.
So next week, we're going to talk about the rest of it, or next episode, sorry. Probably not going to be next week. I think I'm going to release it as a bonus episode because I already have plans for next week. But I think that with that for the day, court is adjourned. Thanks for listening.